I'm a creative director. It's a job title that comes with a few assumptions. That I'm creative, I'm arty, and that it's my job to judge and direct other people's creativity. It also suggests that I get paid a bit more than when I was just a designer. And for me, that meant a new car. Remember the day I picked it up? I returned to work for the day and made my way down to the basement car park. I started the car and gingerly manoeuvred it around the numerous concrete pillars out onto the traffic-filled streets of Manchester. Now, I'm not usually a nervous driver, but something strange happens when you drive a new car, a bigger car than you did before. You start driving like Miss Daisy. So when I eventually arrived home, I found an on-street car parking space between two cars. Tentatively, I manoeuvred it backwards and forwards for quite some time, until I ensured I'd edged it into its space without a scrape or a bump. Now, watching this palaver with a rather eccentric elderly next door neighbour, as I got out of the car, he approached me. "Let me help you," he said, and he took a key from his pocket and leant forward and went to scratch the car door. I stepped in his way and demanded he told me what he was doing, and this is what he told me. He said, "As long as you're driving that car without a scrape or a bump, you'll be totally preoccupied, totally obsessed about when its first bit of damage will be, and there will be some damage at some point. I'm just speeding that moment up for you, so you can get on with driving the car." I think what he did was really creative. He made me realise the futility of worrying about a big lumpy metal object. It wasn't a moment of artiness, literary genius, or a masterpiece in songwriting, or any of those other things that people associate with being creative, but it was bold like all great creative is. It was a great idea, a solution to a problem, like most everyday creative is. I think what troubles people most about the notion of creativity is that notion of artiness. But I've never met a person who isn't inherently creative if they let themselves. The problem is that many just don't believe it. Perhaps because they don't have creative in their job title, maybe because they've never been told they're creative, or worse still, that they have been told that they're not creative, that they've been judged. And that moment often happens early in life, perhaps after they've been congratulated on their first painted daubings and hand-printed paintings, when they move on to drawing any of the things that are meant to look like what they're meant to look like. It's at this moment that parents and teachers often make the judgment who's creative and who's not. Many children are led to believe they're simply not creative because they're not arty. But creativity is more than that. It's not mysterious or elusive. It's simply the use of imagination or ideas to create something or change something. Like Peter and his key, he was changing a situation, changing a behaviour. But for people to be creative, they've got to believe it, to have creative confidence. Why does this matter? Well, creativity is the greatest competitive advantage a business can have. But most of all, we need to encourage creativity in our children, because creativity is what will solve the biggest problems of the future, be it social, political, environmental, or pretty much anything else. And we need to encourage creativity in adults too, for all adults to get up and say proudly, "I'm creative, I don't have to be arty."